Now, your health, your safety. This is ABC7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Sze. Welcome to our daily special called Getting Answers. We're asking experts your question every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, we have the ultimate expert when it comes to distance learning. So post your questions on our Facebook live stream, YouTube Live, or check out our Instagram stories to submit a question. So joining me now is Sal Khan, founder of Khan Academy, the world's #1 online learning platform for K through 12 grades. Sal, thanks so much for joining us, making time for ABC7 viewers. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Great to be here, Kristen. I have a little bit of thing with my eye, but other than that, I'm feeling great.
Ooh, okay. You got to get that looked at. But I'm sure you have something on Khan Academy for that. You're based in the South Bay, right?
Yeah, we're out here in Mountain View.
All right, excellent. So I got to ask you, with kids all around the world, including 6 million here in California, your kids, my kids, suddenly not being able to go to school, what kind of growth have you seen on Khan Academy?
Yeah, we've seen our traffic, depending on the day or the week, someplace between 250 and 300% of normal. We've seen registrations, parent registrations are 2,000%. They're 20x of normal. And teacher and student registrations have been 5 to 10x. So we've definitely seen a big new step up in usage.
How about like the time spent learning?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, on a daily basis, there were about 30 million learning minutes per day on Khan Academy. And so now that number is closer to 80 or 90 million learning minutes per day. So it's definitely gone up pretty dramatically.
Okay, yeah, that's what you call astronomical growth. But it's all still free, right? Everything like your math, your science, humanities lessons, all free?
Yeah, one of the things that we found, we're not for profit. You own as much of Khan Academy as I do, and as much as the viewers do. We're a public charity, and people sometimes go to Khan Academy and think there must be a catch to it because so much else on the internet or some apps you download, it looks free, but then you start seeing ads, or then you start seeing, hey, for another $2.99 a month, you get this or that unlocked. That's not Khan Academy. We're funded with philanthropic donations from folks of all levels. So anything if people are in a position to, we definitely appreciate those donations, but that allows us to make everything free, everything non-commercial, from Khan Academy Kids, which is our early learning app for ages 2 to 7. And for folks to try that out, it's math, reading, writing. It's really like 30 or 40 apps in one. It has hundreds of books in it. Once again, it's free. There's folks out there charging $10 a month for things that don't have the efficacy, that don't have the richness of some of these apps, but we're able to do that because of philanthropy.
All right, so, 12 years ago, before distance learning even became a thing, a buzzword, you were doing it. Tell us the story of how it got started.
Khan Academy has a bit of a happenstance story, although in some strange way it connects to the moment we're in. Back in 2004, I was a year out of business school. My original background was in tech. I was living in Boston at the time, and I had just gotten married. And my family was visiting me from New Orleans. Came out of conversation, my 12-year-old cousin was having trouble with math. So I offered to tutor her remotely when she goes back to New Orleans. We start doing that. Long story short, she kind of gets caught up with her class. Then word spreads through my family, free tutoring is going on. And before I knew it, I had 10, 15 cousins, family, friends that I was working with on a regular basis. And with the background in tech, I started writing software for them because I saw they all had gaps in their knowledge. They all had to learn at their own pace. They had to master concepts. I, as their teacher, their tutor, I needed data to understand where they were. And it was actually a friend. By this point, I had moved out here to Northern California. A friend said, well, why don't you scale your lessons by recording some videos and uploading them onto YouTube for your family? And I immediately thought it was a horrible idea. I said, no, YouTube is for cats playing piano. It is not for serious mathematics. But I got over the idea that it wasn't my idea, and I gave it a shot. And that kind of took on a life of its own. And so by 2009, I had trouble focusing on my day job. I was an analyst at a hedge fund, and I quit and tried to set this up as a not-for-profit. We were living off of savings for a while, but by 2010, corporations like Google, foundations like the Gates Foundation helped turn this into a real organization. And since then, as I mentioned, other foundations, corporations, and actually hundreds of thousands of donors, sometimes people donating $3 to $5, has allowed Khan Academy to now grow to the scale we're at.
Yeah, well, Sal, I've known Khan Academy for a while now. My kids use it. But, before they kind of used it to fill in gaps of knowledge, right? Let's say they felt like I wasn't that great at long-form division. That's what I'm going to do these lessons, make sure I master this. But now, when it's becoming the whole of someone's learning for so many students, how do we go about using it? Where do we get started? Kind of give us a basic recipe.
Yeah, as you mentioned, most users of Khan Academy, it was 20 million, now it's 30 plus million every month coming. They're oftentimes students who say, okay, I have a test tomorrow on quadratics. They do a web search and then they come to Khan Academy, or they know that the Khan Academy has resources, so they go directly to Khan Academy, or on photosynthesis or on the American Revolution. But more and more, Khan Academy tries to do what a good tutor would do. You come, we're going to help you for that moment. We'll say, well, why don't you keep working? So the software will say, hey, why don't you keep working on the next concept? Hey, try to figure out what your gaps are so that you can fill those in and keep going. Ideally, it's used in conjunction with a classroom. So even pre-COVID, our ideal use case was a teacher uses Khan Academy to allow every student to learn at their own time and pace. Mm-hmm. Every teacher will tell you they have a class of 30 kids. All of those 30 students have different gaps, different level of preparedness. They all learn at different speeds, but it's very hard as a teacher to be able to cater to those needs individually without some type of support. And so if they let Khan Academy do that for some part of the school week, then the teachers get real-time reports, understand where their students are, and then can do more focused interventions on whatever help they need. That was pre-COVID. Now, post-COVID, or now that we're in COVID, the teachers that were already using Khan Academy have been able to more fluidly transition because they were already used to that pattern. But now, instead of, say, 45 minutes a week of using Khan Academy, depending on the age group, they're using it 20, 30, 40 minutes per day to really make sure that the kids can keep learning, so they can keep moving ahead. If I'm, as a parent, and I am a parent of an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old, what I've told all parents, including myself, because it's very easy to get stressed, like, oh, my kids are not in school, I have to somehow replicate 8 hours of school, is, well, you don't have to do that. If your children at least can get, depending on the age group, 20, 30, 40 minutes a day of math, 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes a day of reading, and do a little bit of writing every day. It could be as simple as some journaling. And if they can do that now, now through the end of the school year, which we're pretty much at the end, and then through the summer, you can feel pretty confident that your students are going to be well prepared and their skills wouldn't have atrophied. And what we're trying to launch, what we will launch over the next few weeks, it should be out by about June 15th, are what we're calling getting ready for grade level courses. So Khan Academy already has courses. We talked about early learning, elementary school level, math, English language arts, high school level, math. We have SAT practice, we have the sciences, but we realize that a lot of students and a lot of families, a lot of teachers are going to make sure that students are ready for grade level. So these are going to be micro courses that kids can work on over the summer. So if they're entering 6th grade, they can get ready for 6th grade and everyone can feel good they're going to have a strong foundation.
All right. I want to fold in a viewer question from Alejandra, and you sort of addressed this, that not everybody needs to feel like they have to be in that physical setting or even remote learning setting 5 days a week, 8 hours at a time. But Alejandra does want to know, how many days should I aim for in terms of kids being virtual? Because mine are only doing it twice a week, and I don't think that's quite enough.
I think anything that you want to get good at in life, it's all about a habit and doing a reasonable amount as close to every day as possible. So I would say at minimum, if students are able to do 20 minutes a day, maybe Monday through Friday, I think that's going to be better than doing an hour on one day and then another hour, later in the week. I think anything, whether it's learning piano or shooting free throws or learning your mathematics, at least if you get that 20 minutes every day, if you can go 30, 40, that could be even better. But really, that's about all you need, especially in math. And then the same thing on the reading. Make sure your kids just continue to read. We have English and language arts content, reading comprehension and grammar practice, but it also can be as simple, depending on the age group, of your child reading books that they're interested in, and y'all talking about it at the dinner table, and then maybe writing about things, maybe doing some journaling, or as a family, writing down your memories or what are your reflections on the crisis.
All right, so learning can take many forms. We're chatting with Sal Khan, founder of Khan Academy. When we come back, we'll get his take on yesterday's vote by the UC system to eliminate the SATs. But if you join us over on our live stream platforms right now, the conversation continues, and we're going to ask him how to make the most of summer learning. Back in 2 minutes. All right, Sal, so you talked about some new initiatives that will help make sure that you are meeting those grade standards, and summer's a great time to do that. But talk about, just for everybody, how to make the most of the summer, because we feel like there's been this brain drain going on already for like maybe the last 3 months, and then you have another 3 months before the new school year begins. So what would you say is, a good approach?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing to make use of the summer is to just keep learning through the summer. So this goes to this idea of, once again, Monday through Friday, try to stay engaged. If you are students, stay engaged. If you have children, try to keep them engaged. A little bit of math, a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing every day. And by the way, it doesn't just apply to the situation we're in today. This frankly should be every summer. It's just more important this year because we know kids are essentially have 5-6 months away from traditional formal schooling. On top of that, we're going to be creating resources to help keep people learning through the summer. We're creating these get ready for grade level courses, and parents who log in onto Khan Academy, teachers, students, you'll see more messages in the coming weeks about essentially a fun program to just keep up with things so that everyone is ready for back to school.
All right, so, online learning sometimes works for some kids, but not other kids, and some kind of need the structure. So if I feel like my kid does better with a structure, like, hey, every day at 9 a.m., he's learning algebra, is it better to enroll in, let's say, a community college course or a course that actually meets virtually at a set time, or, check out something like Khan Academy where you can learn at your own pace?
I think most students are, both is ideal. My children's school have done a great job where they're doing asynchronous work on things like Khan Academy, where kids are learning at their own time and pace, but the teacher gets the data. They're informed about which students are engaged, which students aren't, which students are stuck on which concepts. But that's not all they do. On top of that, several times a week,
all right. Hey, Sal, I'm going to put you on hold because we're going back on TV.
Oh, that was
all right.
Okay.
And we are back with Sal Khan, founder of Khan Academy, a nonprofit free platform with tons of videos and resources for distance learning now more than ever. So Sal, you guys definitely have lessons on preparing for the SATs. And my daughter, who's a junior, she used it when she was prepping for her test. And I have to say, it does help. So yesterday, the UC system voted to suspend using the SATs or ACTs as an admissions requirement. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, this is one of those things where I understand both sides of the argument, I think, reasonably well. I empathize with both sides. As you mentioned, we are close partners with the College Board. They partnered with us to create free SAT practice for the world. So we definitely have a lot of ties to the SAT. But we also understand the point of view from the UC Regents, which is, hey, now is a stressful time. Some of the testing dates are a bit fluid right now. And a lot of these high stakes tests, whether or not it's true, most admissions officers would tell you that they're only part of the admissions process, but it does sometimes create a culture where people feel like, oh, my whole identity is defined by this score, which can create more stress and more anxiety. So I get that part. I think what's going to be tough is the UC system is going to have to come up with some mechanism to be able to understand how ready students are for the various campuses in the UC system. It's well documented that things like SATs and ACT tests, when used in conjunction with other things, they should never be used just in a vacuum and somehow completely define the student. But when used in conjunction with other things, they are good predictors of whether a student is college ready or not. And I know they've talked about creating another test, and I can see where they're coming from there, but that also creates a risk of now you have even one more test. You have the state standardized test, you have the SAT, the ACT, and maybe now there's a fourth test that students need to take for the UC or CSU systems. So I think that's going to be interesting to navigate. There might be an opportunity going forward where this need to understand how college ready someone is, you might be able to use it using tools like Khan Academy. We're obviously close partners with the SAT. We think that's a valuable signal, but maybe, I've talked to the head of admissions at University of Chicago that went testing optional. And actually in their testing optional world, about 90% of the students are still taking the SAT who are getting in. So it doesn't mean it went away. The UC seems to be going even further where in 2 or 3 years, they won't consider the SAT. But on top of that, signals like, hey, have you mastered a subject on Khan Academy? Have you mastered it on a MOOC or on some other online course? Could also be another signal that admissions officers use in order to, in a standardized way, understands what's going on. Because we know from one school to another, or even within the same school, you have some teachers who might be a little bit harder graders, some are easier graders, some classes are a little bit more rigorous, some are a little less rigorous. So you do need some standard benchmark.
Right, some sort of universal metric, but looking at it as just one piece of the overall puzzle and not a standalone and sole decider, of course. I want to ask you, though, because I think part of the reason they decided to do away with it is due to the socioeconomic inequity that exists in our education system. How does Khan Academy kind of fit into that in terms of trying to bridge the digital divide?
Yeah, this is exactly why the College Board originally partnered with us, because these tests, whether it's the SAT or the ACT, as we mentioned, they do correlate with college readiness. And there's a reality that the education system, we all, our society have tried to make it as equitable as possible, but there are, a majority of majority schools don't offer many AP courses, don't offer things like even pre-calculus or physics, things that you would expect to happen at most high schools. And so there are inequities in the system, and this is well documented. There's inequities in expectations and access to resources. And so we think that the solution is, let's give more people access to rigorous resources. Let's give everyone in the world access to truly world-class, whatever you want to call it, calculus courses, algebra courses, sixth grade courses, middle school science, high school science, so that more people can be ready to engage at a high level by the time that they're juniors and seniors and ready to go to college. I think some of the debate, sometimes it's kind of like shoot the messenger, when really the messenger is showing data based on many years of inequity of a system. One of the data points that unfortunately is true is that 70% of students, when they go to community college, have to take some form of remediation, usually remedial math. And that remediation is usually at a 6th or 7th grade level. They're going through the motions of schoolwork at 8th grade, 9th grade, taking algebra, geometry, sometimes pre-calculus, trigonometry, and then they go to college and they're saying, you're not even ready to learn algebra yet. Mm-hmm. And that goes to one of our core ideas at Khan Academy, which is the reason why they got that far, but they can't, the colleges are saying they're not ready, is because they accumulated gaps along the way. They got an 80% on negative numbers, so they didn't know 20% of it. Then they got a 70% on exponents, so they didn't know 30%. And then all of a sudden you get to algebra, and that equation that has a negative exponent in it doesn't make any sense. And so that's where personalization is really important.
Right. So if you practice those skills that you're not as good at along the way, you continue to build that solid foundation without having these gaping holes that catch up to you later, right?
That's right.
All right, Sal, we're going to take a short break on the air, but the conversation, of course, continues over on our live stream platforms, including Facebook Live. We're going to go over there to ask Sal about his favorite resources for learning that are not Khan Academy, like whether it's coding, arts, all that kind of good stuff. So join us on our live stream platforms. Be back in 2 minutes on air. All right. Sal, during this commercial break on air, we're still talking on Facebook, and I'd love to hear what you are having your own kids use and what are your favorite resources for learning online that are free to all, whether it's, art or coding or video production, anything else that's not Khan Academy.
Yeah. What
are some of your favorites?
Oh, depending on the age group, I think for older students, I've seen, TED Talks, I think are great. And it's a great time for families to watch them together and to have conversations about it. I've seen my older two, they've really gotten into kind of making movies. And so any video editing tool, my middle one, my daughter who's 8, she's doing stop motion animation type stuff. And there's apps that you can download for your phone or tablet that allow students to do that. And they love that. For younger students, the apps that I've seen, there's some of these are paid. Obviously there's Khan Academy Kids, but outside of that, there's, I have been impressed with things like Lexia and Raz Kids, but those are paid apps. Mm-hmm. There's the suite of Duck Duck Moose apps I think are great. And then there's stuff that's just wholesome, maybe not quite as educational, but still educational. Things, obviously things from PBS Kids and others.
Ryan Wilson wants you to know he enjoys Udemy.
Udemy? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Let me see if I can pull in some other questions. Oh, someone mentioned their kid is special ed. Do you have any resources you like for special ed kids?
Not fully knowing exactly what the special needs are for that student. I don't have any particular recommendations for that.
Okay. All right. So, Sal, we're coming back on air in 10 seconds.
All right.
And we're back with the founder of Khan Academy, Sze. And Khan Academy, of course, a nonprofit free resource when it comes to distance learning. So I want to ask you, I know you have kids yourself, so do you ever worry about too much screen time, as that's how we're all learning now? And then we're playing there and living there?
Yeah. You know, everyone was worried about that pre-COVID, and now in the COVID world, we're all having to use screens more. We're getting on video conferencing, on Zoom, on Google Meet, whatever else. So definitely worry about it. But the way I've thought about it is, it matters. There's good screen time, there's okay screen time, and there's bad screen time. And then there's also, it matters more, what are you doing outside of your screen time? So if my children are spending a couple hours a day outside, running around, getting their heart rate up, if they're doing creative things, if they have time for us as a family to really connect and have family time, then those are good days. And so if they have some screen time, I don't feel as much guilt, or I don't feel it's bad for them. And when they're having that screen time, it's much more about, are they doing creative things? You know, obviously if they're using Google Docs to write, that's good screen time. If they're using Scratch or code.org or Khan Academy or anything like that to code, that could be good screen time. If they're using the various resources that are online to learn things, that's great screen time. Mm-hmm. If they're watching, videos of people on YouTube unpacking toys, that's probably not the best screen time.
Yeah, sometimes the kids may argue with you on that one, but yes, I agree with you as a parent. Hey, one thing I think that's really cool in Khan Academy is you have this daily schedule for school closures and how to structure a kid's day. Can you give us an example to fold in all of those activity times that you referred to?
Yeah, I don't have them memorized, but that is something we put together really that first weekend of the closures, because we realized that parents especially were feeling overwhelmed, and they were getting a lot of messages like, here's 500 things on the internet that might be useful for you now that you're going to have to stay in place, school your child, so to speak. And so we said, hey, let's help parents feel comfort in this moment. Mm-hmm. Let's publish schedules for students of different age groups, and schedules that are holistic, that leverage Khan Academy, but then go beyond Khan Academy. So, what time could you get up in the morning? When to get ready? Should you get ready? Where should you work? And then, when do you work on your math? Then you take a break. What resources could you use for PE at this, in this world where there isn't kind of an official PE course? Then how do you take another break? When should you have lunch? And just providing that structure for students of different age groups. Mm-hmm. We've gotten a lot of messages from parents, just lower their stress level, made them realize, okay, I think I can do this. Maybe I'll adapt the schedule a little bit here or there. But that gives me the structure and the confidence I need to be able to jump into this new world. Look,
what about the power struggle? What if your kid doesn't like that schedule? Should you let him or her decide?
Take what I have to say with a grain of salt. I'm not going to pretend that my family is complete nirvana. We have our share of, especially with our 5-year-old, of struggles here. Actually, I'll re-give advice that I've gotten from some homeschoolers who've obviously been doing this for a while, which is stick with the consistency, and then start small, and then celebrate the wins. And when I got that advice, my wife and I, and my mother-in-law lives with us as well. We've been doing that with the 5-year-old, and that first week or two have been tough, and we still have our moments. But slowly but surely, he is getting used to the patterns. He is getting used to actually even knowing his schedule and even going where he needs to at the right times. Now, there's moments of tantrums, there's moments of whatever else. But when we celebrate that, and then we all take, okay, he did his 2 or 3 hours, maybe that 4th hour or the 3rd hour didn't go as planned. But hey, we got that 1.5 hours of solid learning.
Yep. We'll take the W. Yeah, it's good. Hey, we only have about 30 seconds left, but I got to ask you this because you're a smart guy, but, clearly you didn't foresee the pandemic. Nobody did. You didn't foresee the whole world suddenly learning on Khan Academy, which they are now. Do you feel a greater sense of responsibility? Do you get a little nervous about that?
Oh, yeah. It's more just stress, and this is one of those moments where when this was happening, you kind of turn left and you turn around. You're like, I guess this is us. So, if I were to talk to Sal 10 years ago, he would have thought that, wow, Khan Academy is so large. But now I do lose sleep because we have an obligation. It's great that we're serving 100 million, but we need to be able to serve 1 billion. And I want to be able to serve them as deeply and as richly as possible.
Sze, founder of Khan Academy, a great free resource, video lessons, all sorts of topics for K through 12, and even more coming out this summer. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck. Take good care. All right, folks, we have a few more minutes with Sal Khan over on our live stream platforms. Actually, Sal, stay right there. Don't hang up. When we come back, Dr. Alok Patel is going to give us a glimpse of the future for schools. All right, Sal, thanks for hanging on for our one last Facebook block, all done with our TV time. But I just wanted to ask you if you have one final bit of advice to parents. I feel like right now a lot of us feel like we can't do anything right. We feel like we're not meeting our responsibilities. And I mean, truly, what have you gleaned from your own experience and, you know, dabbling in the education world and also like tech world that would make us feel just a little better?
You know, I think this is a moment where it's good to look at the glass half full or quarter full or whatever it is, because yes, there's all sorts of stresses. And I think a lot of us, we project expectations onto ourselves and onto our kids. You know, when you look from a distance, it seems like everyone else's house has it all figured out. And only in your house are your kids running around screaming without their pants on and they're not doing what they're told. But I think this is a moment where everyone has to be easy on themselves, can't beat up on themselves. And I tell this to myself, I tell this to my wife. It's great if our kids can engage in learning. It's great if we have this perfect household where we're cooking, sugar-free meals and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, the best thing for our children is if the parents themselves are feeling calm, if the parents themselves aren't feeling stressed, and that we're all embracing the opportunity to spend more time with each other, that we don't view it as a deficit, that there is a silver lining here, that, when our kids are all grown, we're going to reminisce about those times during the stay-in-place order.
Oh, I certainly hope so. At this point, it's still hard to see that. But yes, maybe when we get through it, that will be the case. Hey, so I wonder, you were talking about how you think the best combination is really to do the asynchronous learning along with, and then come together to kind of chat and video chat. Do you see a lot of local schools adopting that model? Are they talking to you about how to make it happen?
Yeah, we're seeing it to various degrees, but we definitely are talking. Most districts, most schools are trying to do some variation. It's a little bit, some teachers are I guess you'd say more digital natives, and they're diving into it in a little bit.
Darn, Sal, I'm sorry. I asked these long questions and then we run out of time.
Oh, my bad.
I'll see you later back on air. Take care.
Okay, I'll see you.
We're back staying on topics with schools and education. Our special correspondent, Dr. Alok Patel, is sharing insight on what we should expect in the fall.
I'm Dr. Alok Patel, and on today's Doctor's Note, I want to briefly talk about the challenges of reopening schools and give a shout out to everyone who is helping children get through this pandemic. Standing ovation to all those parents and caretakers who are homeschooling right now. So many of you have reached out to me with stories about how much you're juggling, and it's commendable. Also, it's not a one-way effort. So another round of applause to all those educators out there who are finding innovative ways to keep their students engaged. With schools closed, the education process has been completely shook. But in addition to that, millions of kids are missing out on meals. We've lost an important intervention point for social services and therapy, and kids aren't getting the daily interactions they need with their peers for childhood development. So everyone, including healthcare professionals, want to see schools reopen, but the process is gonna be tricky. Several organizations, including the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics, released guidelines on how schools should reopen, and there are a lot of factors to take into account. Every single school is gonna have to implement increased hygiene measures, social distancing, and training for faculty. They're gonna have to consider options such as staggered schedules and concurrent distance learning. Adequate testing and contact tracing will also need to be in place for every single school district because we're probably gonna see more outbreaks this fall. Now, summer vacation is approaching. Children still need support. Children sheltered in place are at increased risk for anxiety, depression. Some have experienced trauma, abuse, many are at risk for PTSD. A lot of them are scared about getting sick or have seen their parents or loved ones fall ill. So parents should be encouraged to keep giving their kids reassurance. Ask them about their emotions and answer whatever questions they have honestly. And as always, if anyone is concerned about a child or teen's mental health or safety, please do not hesitate to ask for help. I'm going to end this by saying I think we all have a newfound appreciation for teachers, by the way, and they should probably be paid more. Just saying.
And that's going to do it for now. Thank you so much for joining us on this new interactive show, Getting Answers. We'll be here every day at 3 o'clock on air and on live stream answering your questions on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, ABC7news.com, and our app. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.